Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the fun house. Today I am putting up this TV bracket. I believe it was purchased from Amazon. Guess that's the model number. And for starters, let's open up the box and make sure everything's in it. Okay, we've got blown up view here and parts lists, and we're going to make sure we have everything, because what is the point of starting if you can't finish? We're going to see if anything is damaged. These pieces fit into one another, so if they're bent or mangled and they won't fit into each other, then we can stop right now and return it. And once we confirm we have all the parts, then we will make sure we have all the tools we need. Okay, here's everything that I can think of off the top of my head. The kit provides you with a level, but if you don't get this particular kit, have a torpedo level or a small level on you. This kit also provided an Allen wrench that fits the hardware that's provided. I have a 13mm socket, which fits the provided lag bolts that come with the kit. This will go into the studs. I have a 3/8 impact adapter to go with the impact gun. I have a drill bit. This particular drill bit is 9/64, but it's just something to pre-drill a hole that is considerably smaller than the lag. So I'm not removing the meat that the lag will bite into, but I am giving it a pilot hole. I have a hand screwdriver. This is a switchable, so it's everything. Tape measure, stud finder, and I've also got a couple of self-drilling, self-tapping sheet metal screws. These are optional. I'll show you what I use them for. You do not need them, but I've used this bracket before, and I like to add a little measure of security as far as keeping the TV centered. And I'll show you that later. But again, you don't absolutely need them, but they do come in handy. I'll show you later why, and you can decide. According to the instructions, step one is getting these particular brackets mounted to your television, which is done with this provided hardware. So I'm going to sort out the hardware and get that rolling. Okay, I found the hardware that best works for my application with my TV. These brackets, I believe, have an arrow on them. Yes. See, there's an arrow pressed into the bracket, and that arrow points up. And so, I will take my first bracket. So I'm trying to kind of center the bracket top to bottom on the TV to kind of center the center of gravity or balance on the bracket. But I also don't want to have my lower screw in a slotted hole and my upper screw in a slotted hole. So then what I'm doing is compensating to use the first round hole and the slotted hole at the bottom, just to give myself, it makes me feel a little better that the screw's not going to pull through. And what I'm going to do is take my screw, put it on my screwdriver, get it started, poke it through the hole I want to use. I'm using the shortest screws possible because I want to keep the TV tucked in against the wall as much as I can. But I do need to use some sort of a spacer. So there's a washer on this side of the screw so it doesn't pull through. There's a spacer there so the threads don't go through into the TV and thread into the electronics. You should turn this just lightly with your fingers and make sure you don't feel any resistance. If you do, use a bigger spacer or a shorter screw, or both. I'm going to get it till it's starting to snug. And then I'm going to get my lower one in place. I know I'm not doing this in a way that makes a lot of sense because I'm trying to show you guys what I'm doing. But It'll make a little more sense when I show you the second bracket. This one, off camera, I put the bolts and the spacers in already. So this one I can install much quicker and simpler, the way it should be done. Not the YouTube way. Alright guys, you snug these up. Finger tight until they bottom out. By bottom out, I mean start to tighten, not hit something inside the television. And once you're there, just give it a little bit. Maybe a quarter turn, half turn. This one took a little more than I thought it would. Hope I didn't screw it into something electronic. Alright, and that's it. Just tight enough so that they're not going to come out on their own. They don't need to be torqued down crazy. Now, as far as these brackets go, if you look at them, they can kind of only go one way. Otherwise, the holes don't line up. The reason these brackets are the way they are is because they're meant to go together like this, and then you line up the holes with the big TV bracket. Then you got these black short Allen headed screws that go in like so. If you ever watched my channel before, you'll always hear me say don't tighten anything. Get them all started. If you tighten one, sure as heck it's going to stop you from getting the other ones in. Just get them started. When they're all in a couple turns, now we can start to tighten them down. And again, this is going to hold your TV. You do want it to be put together solid and strong. It's not going to travel down the highway. It's not going to be subjected to crazy vibrations. You don't need thread lock, and you don't need to tighten these to 100 foot-pounds. There we go. Now I'm going to take these end brackets with the screw hole towards the back where the wall would be. Pop them on. Put the screws in. Don't go too crazy. These are Phillips headed screws. I think they're the smallest ones with the kit. So cosmetically speaking, I want to put the TV basically centered between the corner and the door molding. But I really want to hit a stud. There's ways to do this without hitting a stud, but I feel much safer about hanging it from a stud. So I'm going to measure from there to there to the edge of the molding. And I'm going to divide that in half by 2. And then I'm going to see where the closest stud is to that area. And this bracket will allow me to center the TV even if the bracket is not mounted in the center of the wall. If I'm just off by a few inches, I can compensate for that with the bracket. So I measured for the height that I want it, and I measured for the width. And that little mark is the height and the width that I want. If you look close, it's a little X. They provide this bracket, which gives you the screw holes. I'll punch these little punch outs out so you can see what I'm talking about. And one down the bottom. So I'm not going to make my hole there. I'm going to check with the stud finder and see if there's a stud there. And then I will move a little left or a little right until I find the closest stud. And then I will put this on the wall and make some pencil marks. I'm going to use the level to level it. And I'll make some pencil marks, pre-drill my holes, and then I'll be able to bolt the bracket to the wall into a stud. If you have access to the wall from the other side, like there's a closet over there, or if you're remodeling, or if you don't mind doing a little spackling, you can make a hole in the wall, put a block of wood in between the studs, screw it on both ends, put the sheetrock back and patch it, and then bolt through the sheetrock into the wood to put the TV anywhere you want. But that's a little complicated. I'm renting. I don't mind spackling the holes when I move, but I'm not cutting open the walls and putting blocks in the walls. So let me find a stud. So there's my mark. There's no stud under it, but a little to the left, I got one right there. So that's close enough. So what I've decided to do in the interest of keeping it level is I drilled the top hole, I bolted the bracket up, whoop, and now I'm going to level the actual bracket. That looks dead on to me. And now I will eyeball the center of the hole down at the bottom. They do make a tool for this, but I don't have one that will find the center of the hole. Okay. And now I'll put the lower bolt in. Okay, now I can tighten this one up a little more. Okay, I've got the bracket bolted to the stud. This screw is missing because I can't make noise right now. My baby's taking a nap. But with the two screws, the two bolts in it going into a stud, it's strong enough. I'm going to put that third screw in later. You should put it into a stud first. But I'm just explaining why it's missing. And what I'm doing now is I have hung the TV and I centered it, judging from this middle to this outer edge, or from this middle to this bracket, and vice versa, this bracket to this edge. And now these will get their hardware. This will clamp to the television, and I'll show you what those self-tapping screws, the optional screws, were for. Okay, so they gave you these screws, which are also Phillips head. I guess about a half of an inch to 3/4 of an inch long. And these things hinge over. And then you put the screw in. And when you snug the screw up, it clamps pretty good. Chances are this bracket isn't going anywhere with this screw in snug. Get the other side as well. Okay, with that snugged up, this bracket does not move. It does not slide. But you've got these holes pre-drilled in these caps. I have it centered. I intend to keep it centered. So now what I'm going to do is take the self-drilling, self-tapping screw and my impact gun, put it in the pre-drilled hole. And I'm going to put one of those on both sides. It's not necessary. I do not think the TV could move if it tried, or if you tried. But the hole's there, the screws are inexpensive, and I like insurance. Fair warning, it does spray off metal shavings that are sharp and dangerous, so make sure you put down a drop cloth and or vacuum when you're done. And that takes care of mounting the TV to the bracket. Now we just do some fancy schmancy wire management. So that's it. The TV is mounted. They provide you with some Velcro strips. So I ran the wires temporarily. I plan to do a nicer job, but I have them strapped to the bracket where they won't get pinched and running down the wall neatly. Ideally, I'd like to install a receptacle back here and not have any wire showing. But like I said, I rent. This is good enough for now. And TV is very easy to swing around and move. Got my wires packed together with the Velcro strips coming down. And that's it. There's a TV mounted to the wall. Thanks for watching.